Welcome, I'm Jimmy, this is my wife Deborah, and we're coming to you live from our back porch that we just furnished. Thanks to Rona. Unfortunately, it is a terrible thing that's happening in the world, but we always like to look at the positive things, and one of the silver linings is we're able to get a lot of stuff done around the house that we've been meaning to do now for quite some time. Deborah?
Yeah, and I'm really excited about it because our back porch has been empty for months and months and months.
Almost a year, I think.
Yeah, and we've been wanting to do something, and we even had things in the garage from 2 years ago that were for our back porch, but we couldn't furnish it yet.
We just didn't have the time.
Yeah, and now we do. So, and also another thing on our list to do was to make these sort of lifestyle vlogs, Hong Dynasty. It's a joke because Jimmy is in business, and we always say, yeah, we want like a dynasty, a legacy to leave our kids and our children's children. And so let's call it Hong Dynasty. And so it was just like a funny name.
The Hong Dynasty
started out
is
as
going
a
to be
joke.
taking over Charleston.
But we're for real now. Hong Dynasty's for real. It might have started out as a joke. But so, yeah, one of the things several of our friends have asked us to talk about is relationships, specifically dating. And so, yeah, we've never done anything like this, but we definitely want to answer some questions. One of the first questions someone asked us was, how do you know when you're dating someone, how do you know they're the one? So do you want to kind of start that off?
Yeah, I've seen enough Hallmark movies.
I love Hallmark.
There's definitely the one. Here, I'll let you answer first.
Okay. Well, I feel like it's like not a direct line in the sand, yes or no. What?
I gotta change my watch.
Okay, he is back with a different watch that he's proud of. So, continuing on, I feel like it's not really like a line in the sand type answer. Like, there's definitely the one and there's definitely not the one. Kind of like there is someone in your life that is probably more compatible for you, and God cares about who we date, and you know it plays into our familial legacy, our heritage, what we're multiplying and doing, but it also plays into like our calling as well. Like who we date and who we end up with is actually going to matter for like our calling and how we impact people on the earth. I do feel like it does matter, and there is a person that God probably has a very strong opinion about for you. At the same time, the person has to choose you, and you have to choose that person, you know? So it's like that person doesn't choose you. Is there someone else? Absolutely. That's what I feel about it. What do you think?
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. It's hard to say like there's someone that's been put on earth specifically for you.
Yeah.
I believe that there are people out there that would there is a person out there for you, maybe not a specific person, but there is someone out there for you that's been designed and created to help you become a better you.
Yeah.
And you to help them become a better them.
Yeah.
So.
Maybe it's more like a type of person rather than just the person.
Yeah.
And one thing that I think would help a lot of girls when they're dating is, and guys, let's not leave the guys out, would be like to make a list. It's very helpful. And to make a list of what you're looking for. You know, we've done this before, you know, in classes, a nonprofit I used to work for, you know, we've done this many times. So many people go for the shallow things. And I know guys do that worse than girls, but I've seen some girls do it bad too. You know, it's like they have to look this certain way.
Yeah, give some examples of what you mean by shallow things.
Yeah, like just appearance alone and not things that actually will last. So like on your list, what I'm referring to are qualities in a person. So for my list, I needed somebody who is a peacemaker. I needed somebody who is going to balance me out. And Christine Kane, she made a video. I thought it was so funny. She said, there can only be one complicated person in a relationship. And I thought to myself, I am definitely that complicated person in this relationship. And I just knew I needed somebody to balance that out. I needed that peacemaker. So that was something on my list. Loyal, faithful, definitely spiritual, really took God seriously, believed the same things I did, truthful, trustworthy, all of those important things. Whereas something shallow would be like they have to be
You have to have a
6'4".
six-pack or have a
Yeah.
six-pack or look like The Rock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, or they can only be this race, or they can only be this style, and I think that we have to break those molds.
Well, you saying that reminds me of a couple. Well, not a couple. They never became one because the gentleman couldn't look past the color of this other person's skin just because he had in his mind what he wanted and he didn't want someone of that color.
Right. Right.
Even though that girl would have been great for him because she would have pushed him to become a better person.
I think a lot of times many couples miss out, potential couples miss out on someone that could actually benefit them in like the grander scheme of things because they can't look past some sort of physical quality, and I remember when I met you and months later when we actually started dating, I never even grew up with Asian or Oriental people at all in my life.
I didn't grow up around white people.
Barely.
From the Obilla.
You didn't grow up with Asian people either.
Yeah, I didn't.
And that was definitely not something that I ever like thought about in the front of my mind, like, oh, I want to be with an Asian guy. That was never anything like that. And so when I knew that ultimately he had something that would actually balance me so well, how am I gonna like let an ethnicity stand in between that? You broke my mold because I never even thought that that was a possibility. So sometimes I think for people potentially starting a relationship, they just have to break their molds, like all the shallow molds, and go after what actually matters. Because then I see these young people dating people that are like way beneath them. And I don't mean that in like a derogatory way. I mean it like
they're unequally yoked.
They're unequally yoked, and only because that person looks good. They may have the shell, but do they have what actually matters on the inside?
Yeah.
When we get to be 50, 60, 70, the shell isn't even going to matter. It doesn't matter how much Botox I get. It doesn't matter.
No, you're not getting Botox.
It doesn't matter any of that stuff because we age and all of that stuff happens and takes place.
Because my muscles are going to turn into wrinkles.
That's right.
They'll be all saggy. But I think it comes down to your level of maturity to see the content of their character, to see their heart.
Right.
That's what it really comes down to, in my opinion, is the maturity level. Because a lot of people, their immaturity is like, oh, for guys, it's like, oh, I want a girl that, she's got an hourglass figure, nice and tight. But
because that's what culture is feeding us.
Yeah. But I think as you mature, you begin to look past that. Well, hopefully, you begin to mature. And you begin to look past that, and you actually look at the content of one's character. You look at their heart.
Yeah.
Martin Luther King talked about that. That one day, he had a dream that one day people want to look at the color of a person, but rather the content of their character. The content.
Yeah,
of
and
their
that
heart.
just doesn't count for politics. That counts for relationships too.
Yeah, it does. My parents always told me I had to marry a Korean woman. They said you need to marry a Korean woman. You need to marry a Korean woman. Sorry, Mom. And my sister married a half Filipino, half white dude, and my wife is white, obviously. So we had to break free of that mold, and instead of seeing the color of a person or the ethnicity of a person, we had to see the character of the person, because that's who the person really is.
Exactly.
When you look into the heart of a person, when you look into the character of a person, you begin to really see who they are.
That's really good because that you brought that up, because I feel like a lot of people have like family expectations of a certain race or ethnicity. And I feel like we really have to break that as a society in general, because we could be missing out. Like Love is Blind is like super popular right now on Netflix. The most popular couple is Cameron and Lauren. And, they couldn't see each other's skin color, and Cameron's a white guy and Lauren is a black girl, but they're amazing for each other, and they have a really unique connection. And I feel like so many people are missing out on that depth because they're looking at the stuff that actually doesn't matter in the long run, because beauty is fleeting. Should you build a friendship first before dating?
I think one thing that really helped us I believe what really helped us was our foundation. We built a foundation on friendship. We built a pretty strong foundation. So when those rocky moments came where you wanted to leave me, you couldn't because you were hooked.
No. Okay, so we need to explain that because that's not the case.
No, in all seriousness, no. I think being friends really helps build that relationship, and it builds it on a stronger foundation.
I agree. We dated 4 years before we got married, and 3 years before we even got engaged. I think there are two things: friendship, but I know sex complicates things, and we decided we weren't going to have sex for many reasons until we got married. And hello, that's not easy, for a teenager / young adult. Like, and that's the opposite of what everybody in the world is telling you, like, how to live your life. But you gotta think, like, people telling you have to have sex when you're dating, like it's like a rite of passage. Do they have the type of relationship you want? 99% of them did not have the type of relationship I wanted. And so I talked to people who had really successful relationships. I looked at statistics, I did research, and I saw the benefit of actually waiting. And it was difficult, but it was so worth it because me and you got to, like, establish such a depth in our relationship before we...
That wasn't built on sex.
Yeah, like, I feel like so many relationships,
wasn't built on sex,
they're like hanging by a thread, and that thread is sex. That's the only thing keeping that relationship together. And it by far complicates every relationship. It actually can make a really good relationship toxic by introducing it too early. I feel like for us, that was super helpful. So I'll give a little story about how I believe had we introduced sex before, our relationship would have gone toxic. And because we didn't introduce sex in our dating relationship, I was able to set some boundaries and respect myself to where you could either rise up to that or I'd be like, bye. I was giving the opportunity.
So just to give you a little background how we met. I had just gotten back home from my second deployment to Afghanistan. I was kind of at a crossroads at what I was going to do with my life. One crossroads was do nothing because I felt like doing nothing because I was severely depressed. The other one said go to school, become a police officer, because that's what all Marine veterans become, are police officers. So I started going to Trident Tech, enrolled in their criminal justice program. And that's actually how I met my wife, because
we had a computer class
together.
We had a
computer class together, and she needed help with her computer work, and I was the only Asian guy in the class.
When I met him, I actually didn't reach out to him because I needed help with my homework. I reached out because I felt this, like, push of the Holy Spirit. Like, it was this weird thing, and I didn't know at that time it was God speaking to me. And so when I reached out, I was like, hey, tall Asian guy over there. It was like this huge class. He's all the way in the other side of the class. And he's like, who, me? I'm like, yeah, what's your name? I want to add you on Facebook. So I told my friend Logan, who was in the class, I was like, he looks sad all the time. And I got his name. And at first, when I heard his name, I thought he was joking, like making fun of me, because I was asking that in front of everybody. But then it actually was his name. So then I just looked.
You look very special.
Yeah. Anyway, long story short, we added each other on Facebook. Months later, we started dating. He got out. He was like getting out of that sad, depressed state. And in previous relationships, he experienced so much rejection, and he was about to have to go back overseas for just like a routine training, and he was scared. What would you say that? You were kind of scared
of you rejecting me?
Of me repeating what you've already been through.
Yeah, I'd say so.
And I wasn't so relationally aware at that time. I was just living in real time with all this going on. And so here he is, we're on the couch, we're hanging out. We decided we were going to write each other a letter every single day while we were gone, because we were going to have no contact with each other. There was no way. He was essentially getting deployed for a training. And so I wrote him a letter for every day. He wrote me a letter for every day. He was about to leave, what would you say, about a week later. And I said, man, I'm really going to miss you. It's going to be so hard. And I remember.
And I said, I can't wait to go to see if I miss you. And you said, well, what are you waiting for? You can leave right now.
Yeah, we're not going to start this next week. If you want to play me and act like I'm going to see if I'm going to miss you type thing, like, let's start right now.